There's a moment, quiet, unscripted, that lives in the memory of the Waltons fans. It's not a dramatic confrontation or a tearful goodbye. It's Erin Walton, sitting on the porch at dusk, journal in hand, writing by the fading light. She's thoughtful, sensitive, searching, not just for love or purpose, but for herself. And in that stillness, something real happens. Because the girl playing her, Mary McDonough, was even then on her own journey. A journey not just through fame, but through fear, identity, faith, and, ultimately, healing. Mary McDonough was just 10 years old when she stepped onto the set of The Waltons, cast as Erin Walton, the sensitive, artistic middle daughter of a large, loving family. At the time, it was just a job, a role in a TV movie called The Homecoming, A Christmas Story. No one knew it would become a cultural phenomenon. No one knew it would run for 9 seasons, spawn reunion films, and echo across generations. And no one, not even Mary, could have predicted that the character she played would become a mirror for her own life, a seeker, a dreamer, someone trying to find her worth in a world that often measured women by their looks, not their soul. But behind the scenes, Mary was already wrestling with questions Erin would later face on screen. Raised Catholic in a devout household, she carried a heavy image of God, one of judgment, not mercy. "I felt God was unyielding and unforgiving," she would later write. "No matter how good I was, I would never be enough." That belief, that she was never enough, became a quiet companion. It whispered in the mirror. It echoed in the silence after a bad day. And it followed her into adulthood. When The Waltons ended in 1981, the world had changed. The wholesome values of Walton's Mountain gave way to the glitz of Dallas and Dynasty. The era of big hair, big shoulders, and bigger ambitions had arrived. And Mary, like so many actors after a long-running show, faced the question, who am I now? At 22, she made a decision that would haunt her for years. She got breast implants. Not because she was told she needed them for a role, but because she believed she wasn't enough as she was. She believed her body wasn't enough. And in that moment, she was trying to fit into a world that valued appearance over authenticity. But the implants brought more than change, they brought pain. Health complications followed. And Mary began to suspect they were linked to the implants. What started as a quest for acceptance became a wake-up call. And from that pain, a new path began to emerge, not of perfection but of peace. Her spiritual journey, the heart of her memoir Lessons from the Mountain, wasn't planned. It unfolded. As she began to write the book, she realized the story wasn't just about fame or behind-the-scenes anecdotes. It was about healing. About finding a God who wasn't angry but loving. About reclaiming her body, her voice, and her worth. And about understanding that the lessons she learned on Walton's Mountain weren't just fictional, they were prophetic. Because The Waltons was never just a family drama. It was a spiritual one. In episode after episode, the show explored faith, not just in a church, but in each other. John Walton, the patriarch, often spoke of a quiet, personal spirituality, a connection to nature, to kindness, to the unseen. Olivia, his wife, held fast to her Baptist traditions. And in their differences, the show found truth. There was tension, real human tension, between religion and spirituality. And in episodes like The Baptism, with its fire and brimstone preacher, Mary saw her own childhood fears reflected. "It reminded me of church," she says. "The idea that I was going to hell unless I earned my way into grace. That God was a punisher, not a protector." But over time, Mary began to question that image. Inspired by her father, a man of deep compassion and quiet activism, she started exploring beyond the walls of her upbringing. She read Wayne Dyer. She studied Eastern philosophy. She learned about Buddhism, Kabbalah, and the shared truths across religions. And she discovered something profound. At their core, most spiritual paths taught the same thing: love others, forgive yourself, live with purpose. It wasn't about rules. It was about connection. And that connection saved her. When she stood before the FDA, testifying about the dangers of silicone breast implants, she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for the women who had no voice. She was honoring her father's belief: you've been given a platform, use it to help others. That activism, born from pain, guided by spirituality, became a new kind of calling. Today Mary is a life coach, a speaker, and a mentor. She runs workshops for young women on body image, self-esteem, and what she calls body branding, getting comfortable with the skin you're in, because she knows what it's like to feel not enough. And she knows how the media, then and now, amplifies that fear. Have you seen a magazine lately? She laughs. It's airbrushed perfection, and now, with social media, the pressure is instant, relentless, and anonymous. Cyberbullying, filters, unrealistic standards. It's worse, she says. But the feeling that I'm not enough is the same, yet she also sees hope. In her work, she watches girls cry, then laugh, then begin to heal. She sees them realize they are more than their bodies, more than their likes, more than anyone's opinion. And in that, she sees Erin Walton, not as a character, but as a symbol of the search so many of us share. And yes, she still sees herself in Erin. Not in the way she walks or talks. Erin is a little slower, Mary says. I'm more kooky, more high energy, but in their hearts, yes. Both were middle daughters in big families. Both struggled with identity. Both were seekers, Erin looking for purpose, Mary searching for peace. And both were punished, in a way, for caring about beauty. Erin when she lost a beauty contest and grandma scolded her vanity. Mary when she realized the world saw her as pretty but not deep. One of the most powerful episodes for her was the burnout, where Erin considers becoming a nun, not out of calling but out of guilt. I wanted to be a nun too, Mary admits. But Erin's motivation was different, shame, punishment. Still, the idea of simplicity, of service, stayed with me, and then there was John Ritter, the man who played Reverend Fordwick. More than a co-star, he was a lifeline. He touched my heart so deeply, Mary says. He saw my pain when no one else did, and it was Ritter who told her to start journaling. That night, she bought a spiral notebook and began to pour out her fears, her sadness, her secrets. For years, that journal was her sanctuary. And today, it's still part of her spiritual practice, not to dump pain but to listen. To connect with that higher part of herself. By the time I finish writing, she says, I usually have an answer. She also found inspiration beyond the Waltons set. Just across the lot at Warner Brothers was Kung Fu, with its quiet wisdom and Eastern spirituality. She'd visit, drawn to the incense, the candles, the temple set. And she became friends with Radames Pura, the young grasshopper. He knew so much about philosophy, she says. I didn't understand it then, but it planted a seed. So why does the Waltons endure? Mary believes it's because the show offers what so many long for, a connection. 3 generations under one roof. A community that cares. A world where people talk, pray, argue, and love together. People say, it's the family I never had, she shares. Or it's just like mine. That's why it still resonates, and yes, she'd love one final reunion movie. A scripted closure. A chance to answer the questions fans still ask. She pitched it. Earl Hamner loved the idea. The cast is ready. But Hollywood? Not so much. We're in the land of reality TV, she laughs. But I still believe in the power of story. Of family. Of peace. Today, Mary McDonough is in what she calls the crone stage, embracing menopause, aging, and the wisdom that comes with it. She's working on fiction books about women, family, and resilience. And she's at peace. Not because life is perfect but because she's finally enough. And somewhere, on a quiet mountain, a lamp still burns in the window. A girl writes in her journal. And the world remembers that the greatest lesson from the mountain isn't about the past. It's about making peace with the present.